I'm from the US, but I've been living in Mexico for about a year now, and since I've been here, I've noticed a lot of differences and reasons why Mexico's neighborhoods are better than USA suburbs. US suburbs and towns are designed with the idea that you'll need to take your car anywhere you go. Notorious for isolating people. Sidewalks are often empty, strip malls require driving, and this dependency on cars to go anywhere or do anything makes everything seem like a much bigger task than it needs to be, which somewhat kills doing anything spontaneously. Anytime you want to head out of the house, it now requires more planning. Do we have enough gas to get there? Will we be back in time for dinner, or should we just grab takeout? Does the weather app say it's going to be raining? These are all things you don't really need to consider if you're able to just stay in your own neighborhood. In contrast, Mexican neighborhoods are built around accessibility. Active third spaces such as vibrant town squares, local restaurants, and meticulously maintained public parks. These areas serve as meeting places of the community where locals and tourists gather to walk, relax, eat food, and talk. This layout obviously encourages more spontaneous, face-to-face interactions, and it directly counters the isolation epidemic seen in suburban developments. Now, Mexico is obviously a very large country, and there's always going to be other places outside your neighborhood that you'll want to drive to. But the difference is that once you get there, you can usually just park your car and explore on foot. In Mexico, each town has several colonias, which is kind of like a smaller town within a town, and each of these colonias is also going to be walkable, usually. So you can go try a new restaurant, do this, that, and the other thing, which are all at different addresses, and we're still only talking about one car ride there and back. In the US, each location you want to go to is likely going to be another trip in your car for every single place. The best way I can sum this up if you're from the US is that it's sort of like going to a major theme park, because it's just one car ride to get to several different things. Except the difference is admission is free, it's not as crowded, and there's a much higher chance you'll actually have fun. Living in a US suburb typically turns grocery shopping into a major logistical chore, requiring a drive to a massive, sterile corporate supermarket. Because corporate monopolies basically control the supply chain, prices go up while food options become more limited and heavily processed. I've never really enjoyed grocery shopping in the US, but I think I really started to dislike it when they started putting toiletries in locked plexiglass cases. In a Mexican neighborhood, fresh food is completely decentralized. You can look any direction down most streets and see a small family-owned grocery store, and local butchers and fresh fruit vendors. Plus, since there's stiff competition between local sellers on every corner, the quality of the produce remains high, prices stay reasonable, and buying food closer to the source becomes a normal part of a daily walk. I've never seen these tiny bananas in the US, but they're really good, and it was only 2 pesos or about 11 cents USD. The soundtrack of a US suburb is incredibly sterile. Maybe you'll hear the sound of the distant hum of a highway or drone of air conditioning units, but the most noise you'll usually hear is the weekly roar of commercial lawnmowers. To many, it can feel strangely lifeless, but Mexican neighborhoods are rich with sensory vitality. The ambient sounds of daily life, passing food vendors chanting their offers, local music drifting from open doorways, church bells, and neighbors chatting create an undeniable atmosphere of liveliness. It gently reminds you every day that you are part of a living, breathing human ecosystem. Because Mexican neighborhoods always have a real sense of community, they double as active venues for local traditions. Whether it's celebrating a neighborhood patron saint or setting up street-wide block parties, the local streets easily adapt to celebrations. In the US, suburban layouts make block-wide community events incredibly difficult to organize, usually requiring city permits, street closure applications, and massive logistical hurdles just to get neighbors to talk to one another. And in my experience, even beyond all the issues I just mentioned, a lot of people seem to just simply not want to do stuff like that. It's like your friends are your friends and your neighbors are just your neighbors. And many people want to keep it that way, and in the US that seems to make more sense. But in Mexico, your neighbors are your community, and community is a big deal. In US suburbs, safety is often equated with empty streets and high privacy fences. However, this creates a ghost town effect where no one is watching. Sometimes it can feel somewhat creepy. I remember taking my dog for walks at night and not seeing a single soul. And I've seen too many horror movies that start off that way. However, Mexican neighborhoods often employ the urban design concept of eyes on the street. because people are constantly sitting outside, opening windows to catch a breeze, or just walking. There's a continuous passive web of community awareness. And for me, that makes me feel a lot more comfortable. In addition, US suburban developments are sometimes basically segregated by age. There's young family subdivisions, trendy apartment complexes for singles, and isolated 55-plus retirement communities or nursing homes. Now, that's definitely not always the case in the US, but it's pretty common. And this is something I almost never see in Mexico. Traditional Mexican neighborhoods reject this isolation. On any given block, you have newlyweds living next to great-grandparents who live next to large families. In Mexico, there's more often than not a multi-generational ecosystem which keeps seniors socially integrated and active. It gives kids a wider network of adult mentors and creates a much healthier, more grounded social fabric. US suburban homes are built all at once by massive developers and are basically legally frozen in time by local zoning codes. If a family does expand, it's often forced to go through the stressful, expensive process of selling and moving to a completely different house, in a completely different neighborhood. Now, sometimes additions can be made to houses in the US, but it's never easy, and most of the time it's impossible due to building permits, HOA rules, and other forms of bureaucratic red tape. Mexican homes and neighborhoods grow organically alongside the people who inhabit them. Properties seem to be built to be evolutionary. If a family needs more space, they can usually lay down columns and build a second or third floor. If any elderly parents need to move in, an independent backyard studio or side apartment can oftentimes be constructed. The architecture dynamically flexes to human life cycles rather than forcing people to conform to a rigid, unchangeable corporate blueprint. The visual landscape of an American suburb is meticulously curated by corporate aesthetic boards to preserve resale value. This is why so many of those neighborhoods are a monotonous sea of beige and gray, with uniform lawns that can feel like a sensory deprivation tank. Mexican neighborhoods are a masterclass in visual dopamine. The absence of rigid cookie-cutter regulations allows for vibrant paint choices, shifting architectural styles, and stunning custom wrought ironwork. A simple evening walk becomes an engaging, mood-boosting sensory experience because no two houses or blocks look exactly the same. In many modern US suburbs, the concept of neighborhood safety has shifted toward a paranoid, tech-driven surveillance culture. Communities are dominated by Ring doorbells and other security cameras, but the number one neighborhood lookout is psychotic Karens, and they're ready to chase you down for sometimes no reason at all. Mexican neighborhoods rely heavily on organic, relationship-based trust networks. Safety is maintained through mutual respect, open communication, and community visibility. Now, in Mexico, there are security cameras, but they're not on almost every single house like in the US. Some Mexican neighborhoods even have highly coordinated WhatsApp groups. But it's more common to have friends who will happily look out for a delivery package or hold on to a spare set of keys. The community self-regulates through human connection rather than digital monitoring. And if you're still watching, please let me know in the comments what part of the world you're currently in and what you like most about it. Like the video and please subscribe. Alright, till next time.